Hello! Did you know that Belgium, a country often praised for its delicious waffles and world-class chocolates, is quietly becoming the drug capital of Europe? Last year, 110 tons of cocaine were produced, along with other synthetic drugs right in Belgium, highlighting a significant issue of drug production within Europe. In 2020 alone, the Port of Antwerp accounted for 40% of all cocaine seizures in the European Union. By 2021, this number had risen to 90 tons of cocaine, marking a 50% increase compared to 5 years earlier. Each year, the numbers set new records, and clearly, no one wants this trend to continue. While you are enjoying a stroll through the picturesque streets of Brussels, just nearby traffickers are smuggling tons of drugs into the country. But how did Belgium, a country known for its peaceful landscapes and historic architecture, become a hub for one of the world's most dangerous drugs? What is driving this illicit trade, and more importantly, is there anything that can be done to stop it? Located in the northern part of Belgium, Antwerp is a bustling port city known for its rich history and vibrant culture. However, beneath its attractive facade lies a dark reality. Antwerp has emerged as the center of cocaine trafficking in Europe. Once overshadowed by neighboring cities, Antwerp's strategic location and well-developed infrastructure have made it an attractive hub for criminal organizations. Situated along the Scheldt River, the Port of Antwerp is Europe's second-largest port, handling over 12 million containers annually and serving as a gateway for international trade. The port's extensive shipping network and efficient logistics have inadvertently facilitated cocaine traffickers exploiting its advantages. In recent years, the city has become the focal point for drug trafficking with record drug seizures, indicating that the Port of Antwerp accounted for not just 10% or 20%, but 40% of all cocaine seizures in the European Union in 2020. Antwerp's prominent position has been further solidified by its seamless integration into the global supply chain. Legitimate businesses flock to the port for its convenience and accessibility, but inadvertently sharing space with illegal activities. The allure of quick profits and minimal risk has attracted criminal organizations to Antwerp's shores, transforming it into a hub for drug smuggling operations. Criminal organizations from the Western Balkans have targeted Antwerp's vulnerabilities, using sophisticated tactics to evade detection and maximize profits. In a recent case that shook Antwerp, the situation became even more alarming in June 2020 when authorities uncovered a chilling operation hidden within the seemingly innocuous facade of a shipping container. This container, camouflaged among everyday items, concealed a sinister cargo, 2 tons of cocaine. This revelation sent shockwaves through law enforcement, prompting a swift and determined response to unravel the intricate web of criminality behind the operation. The mastermind behind this covert operation was none other than Dritan Rajapi, a notorious figure in the criminal underworld with connections to the Balkans. Known for his ruthlessness and cunning, Rajapi orchestrated a sophisticated network spanning continents with roots tracing back to Albania. Despite being imprisoned in Ecuador in 2014, Rajapi's influence extended far beyond the confines of his cell, as evidenced by his continued control over a highly profitable cocaine empire. As authorities peeled back the layers of deception, they discovered a chain of corruption and complicity extending from the Port of Antwerp to the highest levels of power. Former port executives, drug enforcement officers, and even a lawyer were implicated in this operation, highlighting the extensive influence of organized crime within Belgium's borders. Bananas, a seemingly innocuous fruit, have become a symbol of cocaine smuggling operations in Antwerp. Taking advantage of the perishable nature of bananas, traffickers exploit the urgency of customs clearance to discreetly smuggle drugs past authorities. This demonstrates the traffickers' familiarity with and meticulous preparation for Belgian law. At the heart of this smuggling operation is the allure of enormous financial profits, drawing criminal organizations into the dangerous world of drug trafficking. The economics of smuggling reveal a harsh reality. The profit potential far exceeds the risks, with margins reaching up to 1,500%. The relatively low production costs, compared to the sky-high prices of drugs in the European market, allow traffickers to earn vast sums from each shipment. One participant revealed, "Each trip I make 2,000 euros, all in cash." The profit margins along the supply chain are immense, with the value of the product soaring at each step from production to distribution, filling the pockets of those ready to exploit the global drug trade's loopholes. For many, the enormous sums to be made from this illicit activity are too tempting to resist, driving a cycle of exploitation and violence that shows no signs of abating. In the world of drug smuggling, access to strategic infrastructure is key to success. Antwerp's vast seaport, the second largest in Europe, provides traffickers with a gateway to the lucrative markets of the continent, offering a significant advantage for their illicit operations. The port's network of shipping routes and efficient logistics infrastructure acts as a conduit for smooth drug transportation. Moreover, the port's geographic location further enhances its appeal to criminal organizations, providing direct access to major European population centers from Amsterdam to Paris. Cocaine traffickers take advantage of Antwerp's strategic location to distribute illegal goods with relative ease. Despite numerous efforts to bolster security and crack down on drug trafficking, the enormous volume of cargo passing through the port of Antwerp presents a significant challenge for law enforcement agencies. As traffickers continue to exploit the port's vulnerabilities, authorities struggle to stem the tide of drugs flowing into Europe. So, what sparked the explosion of this drug trafficking operation in the first place? In the chaotic aftermath of the war in Europe, the Balkans emerged as fertile ground for the rise of organized crime. Balkan mafia gangs born from the ashes of conflict and economic turmoil quickly established themselves as formidable players in the global drug market. Originating from countries such as Albania, Croatia, and Bosnia, these gangs possess a unique blend of resilience, resourcefulness, and entrepreneurial spirit. Faced with limited opportunities in their war-torn homelands, many turned to crime as a means of survival and prosperity. Driven by a relentless pursuit of wealth and power, Balkan mafia gangs leveraged their connections and ingenuity to carve out a niche in the lucrative cocaine trade. From modest beginnings, they rose to prominence by exploiting weaknesses in the global supply chain to expand their criminal enterprises. With a keen understanding of the dynamics of the international drug market, Balkan gangs sought to extend their influence beyond their homeland, establishing intricate supply chains that spanned continents. Leveraging their connections and expertise, they have forged alliances with partners in South America, the epicenter of cocaine production. Through these strategic relationships, Balkan mafia gangs have secured a steady supply of cocaine from countries such as Colombia and Ecuador. Once they had control of the supply, they used their knowledge of shipping routes and logistics to manage the smooth transportation of cocaine from South America to Europe. Antwerp, with its vast port and strategic location, has become a crucial transit point in this complex network. Having established their position in the global cocaine market, the Balkan mafia gangs sought to control the entire supply chain from production to distribution. By commanding every stage, they could maximize profits and minimize risks, thereby consolidating their power and influence in the criminal underworld. Through strategic investments and acquisitions, they have expanded their operations. This vertical integration streamlines their activities, reduces costs, and maintains tight control over the flow of drugs into Central Europe. In the clandestine world of cocaine trafficking, corruption has emerged as a powerful force, infiltrating all levels of society and undermining the pillars of law and order. From low-level officials to high-ranking authorities, the tentacles of corruption extend everywhere, facilitating the operations of criminal organizations. In Belgium, the impact of corruption is particularly severe, as traffickers brazenly bribe port officials and law enforcement personnel to turn a blind eye to their illegal activities. The allure of easy money has proven irresistible to those entrusted with upholding the law, leading to a culture of complicity and impunity. Unfortunately, Belgium is not the only victim of corruption, as it extends beyond its borders, infiltrating governments and institutions across Europe. Traffickers exploit weak governance structures and lax tax oversight to fuel their illicit trade, perpetuating a cycle of corruption that undermines democracy and erodes public trust. However, while bribery is a powerful tool, it is not the only method employed by traffickers. When other methods fail, violence becomes their last resort. From rival gangs to law enforcement agencies, no one is immune from the shadow of violence that looms over cocaine trafficking in Belgium. Reports of turf wars and brutal reprisals highlight the ruthless tactics employed by drug dealers to protect their interests and eliminate competition. Armed with guns and intimidation tactics, they impose their dominance with an iron fist, instilling fear in those who dare to challenge them. Moreover, violence extends beyond the realm of criminal enterprises, spilling over into streets and communities ravaged by cocaine addiction. Innocent bystanders become collateral damage in the relentless pursuit of profit, as traffickers resort to increasingly brazen acts of violence to maintain their grip on the market. In the relentless cat-and-mouse game against cocaine trafficking, law enforcement agencies find themselves locked in a perpetual struggle against formidable and highly adaptable trafficking networks. In Belgium, the fight against smuggling networks is conducted on multiple fronts, with law enforcement agencies carrying out a series of undercover operations to weaken the control of organized crime over the country's drug market. A notable operation took place in June 2020, when Belgian authorities led by the federal police executed a raid on a warehouse just outside the port of Antwerp. Under the guidance of experienced investigators, the operation uncovered an elaborate cocaine smuggling ring operating from the warehouse. When armed police raided the location, they discovered a range of alarming tools used by criminal organizations, including a torture chamber with a dentist's chair and soundproofing, as well as a fake police uniform store. The audacity of the operation shocked law enforcement circles and highlighted the brazenness of the involved criminals. The operation resulted in the seizure of a large quantity of cocaine and the arrest of several individuals believed to be key members of the smuggling network, including those with ties to the Balkan Mafia, further underscoring the influence of organized crime in Belgium's drug market. However, the crackdown did not go unnoticed by the drug mafias operating in Belgium. Following the raid, there were reports of retaliatory actions from criminal elements, including threats against law enforcement officials and acts of violence against rival gangs. The scale and complexity of the issue pose significant challenges as traffickers exploit loopholes and employ increasingly sophisticated methods to smuggle cocaine into the country. Moreover, the transnational nature of cocaine trafficking complicates law enforcement efforts as traffickers exploit loose borders and weak regulatory structures to facilitate their operations. Despite the coordination of Belgian authorities, smuggling networks continue to adapt and innovate, creating ongoing challenges. Despite their best efforts, Belgian law enforcement agencies face considerable limitations in both resources and strategy in combating cocaine smuggling. Limited budgets, staffing shortages, and outdated equipment hinder their ability to disrupt illegal activities and dismantle smuggling networks. Reactive law enforcement strategies often fall short in addressing the root causes of the problem, focusing primarily on intervention and seizure rather than prevention and early intervention. Without adequate resources and support, Belgian authorities struggle to keep pace with the ever-changing tactics of traffickers, leading to a cycle of enforcement failure and missed opportunities. As Belgium faces the significant challenge of curbing cocaine smuggling, proposed solutions emphasize the need to bolster resources and advance technology to support law enforcement efforts. Agencies are calling for increased budgets and staffing to enhance their ability to intercept cocaine shipments and dismantle smuggling networks. With sufficient resources, authorities could invest in modern surveillance equipment, including advanced scanning technology and drones to improve detection capabilities at ports and border crossings. Additionally, investing in training and professional development could equip law enforcement personnel with the skills and expertise needed to effectively combat organized crime. By providing the necessary tools and knowledge to navigate the complex landscape of cocaine trafficking, Belgium can strengthen its defenses against this threat. Recognizing the international nature of cocaine trafficking, Belgium acknowledges the necessity of working closely with international partners to halt the flow of narcotics into the country. By establishing strategic alliances with neighboring countries, as well as major transit and source nations in South America, Belgium can disrupt smuggling networks at their origins and dismantle the infrastructure supporting their operations. Furthermore, collaboration with international organizations like Europol and Interpol can enhance information sharing and capacity building initiatives, strengthening Belgium's ability to combat organized crime on a global scale. For decades, countries around the world have waged an ongoing battle against drugs, employing punitive measures to eradicate drug trafficking and consumption. However, as cocaine smuggling continues to thrive, there is growing recognition of the need to rethink traditional methods and explore alternative strategies, including legalization. The war on drugs has been characterized by aggressive law enforcement tactics, mass incarceration, and punitive drug policies that have disproportionately affected marginalized communities. Despite significant investments in law enforcement efforts, illegal drug trade persists, driven by demand and exacerbated by prohibitive policies. The financial cost of the war is mounting, making a re-evaluation of traditional approaches and the exploration of alternative strategies more urgent than ever. Policymakers and experts are increasingly questioning the effectiveness of current measures and are exploring harm reduction-focused approaches that emphasize public health and social justice. Drug legalization represents a shift in drug policy, challenging long-standing assumptions and offering a new framework for addressing the complex challenges posed by drug trafficking and addiction. Proponents argue that it provides a practical solution to issues associated with drug prohibition, including violence, corruption, and organized crime. By regulating and controlling the production, distribution, and consumption of drugs, governments can disrupt criminal control over the drug market and mitigate its negative societal impacts. Legalization also presents an opportunity to redirect resources from law enforcement and incarceration towards prevention, treatment, and harm reduction initiatives. By prioritizing public health over punishment, governments can address the root causes of drug addiction and reduce the societal harms associated with drug use. By bringing drug production and distribution out of the shadows and into the public market, governments can promote transparency, accountability, and consumer safety. While legalization may offer numerous benefits, it is not without its challenges and controversies. Opponents worry that legalization could lead to increased drug use and addiction, undermine public safety, and exacerbate social inequality. There are also concerns about the potential for corporate interests to dominate the legal drug market, prioritizing profit over public health and safety. Additionally, the international legal framework surrounding drug control presents a significant barrier to legalization, with many countries bound by international treaties that prohibit the production, distribution, and use of certain drugs. Any move toward legalization will need to carefully consider these legal obligations and the potential ramifications for international relations and cooperation. His syndicate is incredibly wealthy, disciplined, and sophisticated. It is believed that he made billions of dollars each year by flooding entire countries with his products. This allowed him to live a lavish life full of wealth and luxury. He made so much money that he once lost $66 million in one night at a casino and wasn't even bothered by it. Some media outlets have claimed that he was an even bigger player than El Chapo and Pablo Escobar. If that's true, then why was he alone at an airport in the Netherlands? This is the story of Tissé Chilop. Tissé was born in 1963 in Guangzhou, China. Later, he moved from Guangzhou to Hong Kong, where he became part of a triad gang called the Big Circle Boys, an organization formed by former members of the Red Guards, a paramilitary group established by Mao Zedong. The name Big Circle Boys is said to have originated from a circle drawn on a map indicating their operating area in China. This gang quickly spread across Canadian cities, and in 1988, TSE, then 25 years old, followed suit and moved to Canada. He began living in Toronto, where he and the gang focused on importing large shipments of heroin into the USA. In October 1997, TSE's life took a dramatic turn. Despite always operating under the radar, but their business grew so rapidly that it caught the attention of USA law enforcement. TSE and his gang were held responsible for the influx of heroin into the country. Authorities in Hong Kong arrested Say at the request of the USA and immediately extradited him. TSE was charged with large-scale drug smuggling in the USA, and all signs pointed towards a life sentence. However, in a surprising turn of events, he was sentenced to just 9 years in prison. In court, Tse stated that he had learned his lesson and deeply regretted his actions. He shared his future plans of wanting to open a restaurant and live a law-abiding life. He also mentioned that he needed to care for his elderly parents and a sick child, arguing that he couldn't afford a life sentence and pleaded for leniency. Whether he was truthful or not, but this certainly helped in his sentencing. 9 years for major drug smuggling in the USA is almost unheard of. Whether he genuinely regretted his actions is highly questionable. After serving his 9-year sentence, TC was released in 2006 from the federal prison in Elkton, Ohio, and returned to Canada. After completing his prison sentence, he had to undergo an additional 4 years of supervised probation with regular check-ins and other mandatory rules. TSE followed all the rules and appeared to be on the right track again. 1 year after finishing his probation, Tse registered a new company in Hong Kong under his wife's name in 2011. The company was called China Peace Investment Group Company Limited. China Peace Investment Group was supposed to be a group of investors who would invest in real estate, financial markets, and other sectors, mainly in Hong Kong. However, the USA Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, discovered something entirely different. The company was nothing more than a front. They found that Tse was involved in smuggling again. Interestingly, he wasn't just as strong as he was in 1997. Before his 9-year sentence for drug trafficking, he had grown far more powerful than before. Tse became the head of his own criminal organization and succeeded in forming alliances with various Chinese gangs, such as 14K, Woxing Wo, and Sun Yian. All these gangs worked for Tse, and his organization stood above them all. It was said that he even reconciled feuds between rival gangs, convincing them that cooperating was more profitable than continuing to be enemies. TSE's organization became known as Sam Gore, the Syndicate, or simply, the Company. TSE understood that operating in absolute silence was best. Conflicts would lead to unwanted attention, and attention was bad for business. He made them realize that the market was big enough for everyone to make plenty of money, and he wasn't wrong. TSE's organization sold large quantities of heroin and ketamine, but his main revenue always came from the highly addictive drug, methamphetamine. His preferred smuggling method was to hide the drugs in tea packages, and part of TSE's success came from his professional business model. TSE's production line could be seen as a prime example of high-quality drug manufacturing on a large scale. Hidden in the valleys of Shan State in Myanmar, the heart of Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle, his organization produced high-grade amphetamines in super labs, perfectly designed to ensure maximum efficiency, fast production, and the highest possible output. Another compelling aspect of his business model was the guarantee of free replacements without extra cost or deposit if any of his shipments were seized by police or customs, or if the shipment was stolen, as long as there was proof. This irresistible policy attracted many customers, but it also brought trouble as it drew the attention of law enforcement without his knowledge. TSE flooded the Australian market with his drugs. In 2011, Australian police arrested a group of Australians importing heroin and methamphetamine into the country. This was a small arrest, so the police decided not to detain them immediately. Instead, they put the group under surveillance, wiretapping their phones and tracking their every move in hopes of finding leads to those behind the operation. The group's shipments were frequently intercepted, leading them to repeatedly request replacement shipments from Tse's organization. Although the policy was still honored, Tse's organization began losing patience with the group, since many other shipments to Australia continued without issues. In 2013, the leader of the Australian group was summoned to Hong Kong to explain his actions. Australian police informed Hong Kong police about the man, and they began monitoring him. Hong Kong police discovered that the man met with none other than Tse Chi Lop. This immediately put Tse on the radar of Hong Kong authorities. Why was he meeting with an Australian drug trafficker? They started monitoring Tse and noticed that he lived extravagantly, surrounded by wealth, always accompanied by a personal security team of at least 8 professional Muay Thai fighters, who were regularly rotated as part of his security protocol. It's important to note that at this point, Tisei was still a complete mystery to them, and Hong Kong authorities had no idea about the vast scale of the organization he was running. TSE would often host lavish birthday parties each year at expensive resorts and five-star hotels, flying his family and entourage by private jet. He once took his family and entourage to Thailand, staying at a luxurious resort for 4 months. Despite living in luxury, Tsay was always working, frequently texting and making calls to give orders. If there was anything Tsay loved more than luxury, it was gambling. You may have heard the term high roller, and Tsay was the true definition of it. He regularly engaged in high-stakes gambling, betting not in thousands or tens of thousands, but in millions of dollars. An investigator once observed Tsay losing $66 million in a single night at the tables in Macau. Losing $66 million in one night without flinching was a compelling reason to investigate further. Who was this man, and how did he become so wealthy? Investigators were determined to find out exactly who this mysterious super-rich man was. After extensive surveillance, the police suspected that Tisei was a major drug trafficker who supplied methamphetamine, heroin, and ecstasy to the USA, Australia, and other countries, but they still hadn't realized the full scale of his organization. On the morning of November 15th, 2016, Kai Jung-zae was on his way back home to Taiwan. As he passed through the Myanmar airport, Kai appeared nervous, cautious, and kept scratching his hands due to blisters. His behavior aroused suspicion, leading airport police to stop and search him. They found 80 grams of ketamine taped to his thighs. Kai's hands were severely damaged from exposure to the drug, which is highly toxic, according to an official. Although the DEA had warned them about Kai, the airport police felt lucky to have caught him, as he had essentially exposed himself due to his anxiety. While Kai refused to talk, the police decided to check his phone. On it, they discovered a video of a man crying, bound and surrounded by 3 gang members who were doing unpleasant things to him. This man was said to have thrown 300 kilograms of methamphetamine into the sea, thinking a patrol boat was approaching. This video was sent to people like Kai as a reminder not to do anything stupid or betray the organization. Kai didn't have just one phone. He had another, which a police commander referred to as an Aladdin's Cave of Intelligence. It contained a large number of photos, videos, call logs, and thousands of messages related to drug trafficking. After piecing together various pieces of information, the police traced an address in Yangon, Myanmar, where a Chinese tea packing company was located. Remember how TC's organization often hid drugs in tea packages? 2 days after Kai's arrest, Myanmar police decided to raid this address, hitting the jackpot. They found 622 kilograms of ketamine, 1,100 kilograms of crystal meth, and various other drugs. Kai was confronted with this information but still refused to speak while the police continued to thoroughly examine his phone. As they went through the photos, an investigator suddenly recognized a familiar face in one of the pictures. It was Tse-chi Lop. In 2013, Kai's phone was subsequently shared with law enforcement agencies worldwide, where Tisei might have smuggled his drugs. Police in Australia, China, Japan, and New Zealand all examined the contents of the phone. They were able to link large shipments to a single group, the group Kai was working with. Previously, they thought these shipments were carried out by multiple groups, but that wasn't the case. This was the work of Tisei and his massive organization referred to as a Chinese anti-drug agency. Further investigation revealed that the organization's manufacturing hub had shifted from China to Shan State in Myanmar in recent years. While China provided the organization easy access to key ingredients, but it did not allow large-scale production without interference from law enforcement. In contrast, Myanmar offered the organization the freedom to operate without hassle from authorities, protected by rebel groups. TSE's organization had absolute freedom to produce there, with materials and workers transported to the facility in luxury SUVs. Everyone knew what was going on, but no one dared speak up, as doing so could be extremely dangerous. No one wanted to cross TSE. The retail market for methamphetamine in the Asia-Pacific region is estimated to be worth between $30.3 billion and $61.4 billion annually. With relatively low production costs, minimal labor requirements, and high selling prices, the revenue generated is immense. According to estimates by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, TSC could produce 1 kilogram of meth in his superlabs in Myanmar at a cost of about $1,800 per kilogram. The average retail price per kilogram in Thailand is $70,000, $300,000 in Australia, and $588,000 in Japan. In Japan, this means profits could increase more than 300 times. If TC were to lose 10 tons of meth but managed to get just one shipment through, he would still earn a massive profit, which is why he could easily provide replacements for lost shipments. UNODC estimated that TSA's methamphetamine revenue in 2018 was $8 billion annually, but could be as high as $18 billion. His organization controlled 40% to 70% of the wholesale market, staggering figures to contemplate. Experts have compared TSE's organization to the Latin USA cartels, suggesting it is just as large, if not larger. Jeremy Douglas, the UNODC regional representative for Southeast Asia and the Pacific, stated, "Tse Chi Lop is on the same level as El Chapo, or perhaps even Pablo Escobar." The term kingpin is often used, and there is no doubt it fits perfectly in this case. Compared to Latin USA cartels, TSA's organization operates transnationally, is incredibly wealthy, disciplined, and highly sophisticated. As mentioned earlier, TC has done his job remarkably well. He demonstrated to others that there was a lot of money to be made. His organization served a larger and more dispersed drug market and collaborated with various local criminal groups, helping to limit uncontrolled violence. According to anti-narcotics officials, they operate like a seamless global corporation. Experts also compared TSA's personality to figures like El Chapo and Pablo Escobar. While El Chapo and Pablo were notorious and extremely violent, Tse was discreet and little known. What do you think? Is he bigger than El Chapo or Pablo Escobar? In February 2018, Tse faced some trouble when one of his super labs in Myanmar was raided by the police. More than 200,000 liters of chemicals were seized, along with 10,000 kilograms of caffeine and 73.5 kilograms of sodium hydroxide, all essential ingredients in the production process. That same year, several senior members of his organization were also arrested. Additionally, smaller labs used for testing new formulas were raided. The situation worsened as seizures of his shipments increased significantly, while the prices of the drugs he produced dropped. However, Tse wouldn't be TC if he didn't find new ways to smuggle his drugs. He changed his transportation routes and even started using Laotian couriers to carry 30 kilograms of drugs in backpacks across the border for him. However, pressure from law enforcement continued to mount. The Australian authorities were aggressively hunting Tse down and wanted to capture him as soon as possible. They were fed up with him flooding their country with drugs for years. Tse knew he was being hunted and always moved cautiously, which made the news of one of the world's biggest drug lords being arrested at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, on January 22, 2021 even more surprising. So why was one of the world's biggest drug lords at Schiphol Airport as a regular passenger? He was on his way from Taiwan to Canada, with a stopover in Amsterdam, but unfortunately for him, he never made it to Canada. TSE fought against being extradited to Australia, but was ultimately sent there in December 2022. When people read this news, many asked, why did he take a commercial flight with a stopover when he had the money and power to arrange a private jet, right? We might never know the answers to these questions. After being arrested once and easily acquitted, Tse seemed ready to double down on his efforts to become a major player in the drug trade. He professionalized his business and made billions of dollars. Out of all the possible endings to Tse's story, no one would have guessed it would end at an airport in the Netherlands as he was preparing for a layover on his way to Canada. In the murky darkness of England's underworld, a chilling story gradually unfolds, a tale of immigrants who have risen to become crime lords, seizing power through cunning and violence. It is estimated that Albanian criminal groups contribute up to £6 billion to the UK's illegal drug economy. However, behind these cold statistics lie heartbreaking stories of broken families, imprisoned communities, and lives lost under the ruthless grip of addiction. So how did these immigrants come to dominate the drug market in the UK? What dark secrets are hidden beneath the surface of this criminal empire? Following the chaotic upheavals of the Kosovo War in the 1990s, a wave of refugees flooded neighboring countries and beyond, seeking safety from the violence ravaging their homeland. As the number of Albanian immigrants increased, Albanian-speaking communities began to form in the United Kingdom. These communities were reminiscent of those established in other European countries after the Kosovo crisis, providing a sense of familiarity and solidarity to the newcomers. However, amidst the struggle to rebuild their lives in a foreign land, some Albanian immigrants found themselves marginalized and facing economic difficulties, exploited in industries such as agriculture, construction, and manufacturing. They faced challenges in integrating into mainstream society. It was within this vulnerable context that the seeds of criminal organizations were sown. One of the pioneering figures of the Albanian mafia was Lulzim Berisha. He emerged in the turbulent underworld of the 1990s. Berisha, known for his cunning and ruthlessness, played a crucial role in establishing the foundations of the Albanian mafia both within and outside the country. This notorious kingpin was wanted for the murders of Vazhdin Lami and Klodian Saliu in 2005, a result of a feud between rival gangs. His associates were brought to justice 15 years later, with an Albanian court sentencing 16 members of his gang to 4 life sentences and a total of 267 years in prison for various crimes, including murder, extortion, and kidnapping. Another significant name in the Albanian mafia is Alex Rudaj, also known by the aliases Sandro Rudovic, Ali Boy, and Uncle Rudaj. Rudaj was a prominent figure in organized crime, particularly as the leader of the Rudaj organization, an Albanian mafia group based in the New York metropolitan area. Rudaj was born in Ulcinje, Montenegro, and in 1987 he immigrated to the USA, where he quickly gained notoriety in the criminal world. His criminal activities and violent methods earned him a fearsome reputation. Federal prosecutors linked him to a series of violent crimes, including a dramatic shooting in 1996. In that incident, Rudaj climbed through the sunroof of a car, chased down and shot at another member of a criminal organization in the Bronx. The high-speed chase and subsequent shooting highlighted the ruthless tactics Rudaj employed to assert his power and resolve conflicts in the underworld. Another notable event that showcased Rudaj's bold nature occurred at Rao's, a legendary and exclusive Italian restaurant in East Harlem, famous for its mafia connections. Rudaj and 20 of his men took over a table usually reserved for the late mafia boss, John Gotti. This audacious act was a clear message of his power and influence, further solidifying his fearsome reputation. Besnik Sinanaj, also known as Nicky, is another influential member of the mafia. Born in Albania, Sinanaj immigrated to the United States and became involved in organized crime. He rose through the ranks and became a prominent figure in the criminal network, dealing in everything from drug trafficking to operating illegal casinos. The wave of Albanian immigrants into Western Europe also led to the expansion of the Albanian mafia across the continent. Figures like Daut Kadriovsk, also known as Luan, played a crucial role in establishing Albanian criminal networks in countries like Germany and Switzerland. Kadriovsk's criminal activities range from human trafficking to arms smuggling, solidifying his reputation as a powerful figure in the underworld. Albanian criminal groups saw the potential for recruitment among marginalized immigrants and began targeting the vulnerable with promises of wealth and power. They lured individuals into the world of organized crime with the allure of quick money. Driven by desperation and the temptation of wealth, many succumbed to the offers of these criminal organizations. Drugs, prostitution, and human trafficking became the currency of crime as they delved deeper into illegal activities. Over 15 years, Albanian criminal organizations honed their skills, evolving from small-time smugglers into formidable drug suppliers. Their rise was marked by a ruthless determination to secure a prominent position in the county lines crime landscape in the UK. With patience and calculation, the Albanian mafia meticulously refined their operations, transitioning from small-scale smuggling to becoming sought-after drug suppliers. Recognizing the need for efficient distribution channels, Albanian criminal groups established complex networks known as county lines. These networks spread across the United Kingdom, serving as lifelines for transporting drugs from major cities to coastal and inland regions. County lines became the arteries of the underworld, facilitating the smooth movement of drugs and ensuring a more stable revenue stream. In a shrewd move, the Albanian mafia forged alliances not only with local criminal elements, but also with foreign organizations, extending their influence in the underworld. Through these collaborations, the Albanian mafia expanded their reach, tapping into resources and opportunities beyond national borders. The intersection of these criminal organizations allowed them to establish a formidable presence in the global underworld. Unlike other gangs that often resort to violence as a tool of intimidation, Albanian criminal groups chose a different approach. Instead of bloodshed, they focused on building alliances and networks, using strategy to build rather than destroy. This enabled them to navigate the dangerous waters of organized crime skillfully, leveraging relationships to consolidate power and influence in the underground economy. The Albanian mafia emerged as master strategists, leveraging their expertise to penetrate the UK drug market with exceptional efficiency. Their evolution from small-time smugglers to major suppliers, along with the establishment of county lines networks and strategic alliances, solidified their position as formidable players in the underworld. In the darkness, they chose the path of diplomacy over violence, weaving a network of alliances that ensured their dominance for years to come. In the shadowy world of crime, the Albanian mafia has exerted a significant influence and generated enormous profits within the UK's drug economy. The tentacles of these criminal groups have deeply penetrated the core of the UK's illegal drug market, contributing an estimated £6 billion. This staggering figure highlights their dominance and influence as they control the drug trade. However, their impact is not limited to drugs. Organized crime, with the Albanian mafia as a key player, has inflicted significant damage on the UK's national economy, amounting to £37 billion annually. This enormous sum reveals the true cost of their criminal activities, painting a grim picture of economic exploitation and devastation. Driven by ruthless pursuit of profit, the Albanian criminal groups have demonstrated their cunning by manipulating the market. By lowering the price of cocaine without compromising quality, they disrupted the status quo and sent shockwaves through the drug market, forcing competitors to adapt or face defeat. It's evident that the mafia is attempting to establish a monopoly in the UK drug market. Fueled by ambition and a thirst for power, the Albanian mafia has expanded its vision beyond the UK's borders. They have set their sights on Latin America, the source of the precious cocaine that forms the foundation of their empire. With high efficiency, they have established direct supply lines, tapping into the rich drug production and solidifying their control over the illegal drug market. In the annals of crime, the rise of the Albanian mafia stands as a testament to the insatiable greed and ambition lurking in the darkest corners of humanity. Their economic impact has left an indelible mark on the fabric of British society, forever altering its structure and leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. As the mafia tightens its grip on the drug market, their operational tactics have become increasingly sophisticated, posing formidable challenges to law enforcement agencies nationwide. With ruthless determination, Albanian criminal groups have infiltrated strategic European ports, including Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Algeciras. These strategic locations serve as gateways for the influx of drugs into the continent, providing crucial access points for their illicit operations. To facilitate their illegal activities, the Albanian mafia has strategically placed collaborators in key positions within port operations. These insiders provide invaluable assistance, enabling the seamless movement of contraband through customs and easily evading security measures. The Albanian mafia has employed various sophisticated methods to conceal illegal goods. They use refrigerated containers to hide drugs among legitimate shipments such as perishable foods, exploiting weaknesses in port surveillance systems. Additionally, they utilize dry transport systems with containers featuring hidden compartments to avoid detection during transportation. One of the leaders, Alex Rudaj, saw his reign come to an end on June 16, 2006, when he was sentenced to 27 years in federal prison for multiple crimes, including extortion, racketeering, and gambling-related offenses. At the time, Alex Rudaj was only 38 years old, and this sentence marked a major turning point in his criminal career, removing him from the streets and weakening his influence within the Albanian mafia. The operations of the G Bello gang were not confined to a single country, but spread across multiple locations throughout Europe, making them one of the largest cocaine smuggling networks within the Albanian mafia. Thus, the Los Blancos operation was launched. This organization had operatives in Italy, the Netherlands, and Albania, who played crucial roles in concealing drugs within vehicles and ensuring their distribution across Europe. This network was not only sophisticated in drug trafficking, but also employed complex money laundering techniques. One notable method was the use of the Fei Chien system, an underground money transfer network originating from China. This system allowed money to be sent from one country and withdrawn by an accomplice in another, effectively laundering criminal proceeds without leaving a paper trail. On December 15, 2020, coordinated raids across Europe and Dubai led to the arrest and pre-trial detention of 20 individuals linked to the Bello gang. This operation marked a high level of judicial coordination provided by Eurojust during the final stages of the investigation, with the direct involvement of prosecutors and investigating judges playing a crucial role in the execution and adjustment of European arrest warrants and judicial requests in these cross-border actions. The suspects were charged with a range of serious offenses, including international drug trafficking, illegal possession, and distribution of drugs, and violent crimes such as brutal assaults and murder. The collaborative efforts of the involved agencies exposed the full scale and complexity of the Bello gang's criminal activities. A joint strategy was developed, facilitating the exchange of critical information and evidence necessary to bring the operation to a successful conclusion. In 2015, a joint investigation team was established by the national authorities of Italy and the Netherlands, with the support of Eurojust and Europol, leading to significant progress. This joint effort, known as Operation Los Blancos, resulted in the seizure of nearly 4 tons of cocaine and more than 5 million euros in cash. A total of 84 members of this criminal organization were arrested in various countries. However, despite all the mafia's efforts, law enforcement agencies will not stand idly by. Operations like Los Blancos serve as a clear reminder of the relentless fight against organized crime. Through meticulous planning and close coordination, law enforcement agencies have intercepted shipments, disrupted supply chains, and apprehended key figures in criminal gangs. However, these successes are often overshadowed by the immense scale and complexity of the challenges posed by the Albanian mafia's operational tactics. In the dark world of international crime, the operational tactics of the Albanian mafia have become a formidable adversary for law enforcement agencies. With their infiltration of European ports, the placement of insiders, and sophisticated drug concealment methods, they have posed significant challenges to efforts to combat organized crime. Nevertheless, law enforcement agencies remain vigilant with the sole objective of ending the illegal drug trade. The most significant blow came from Belgian police in the ongoing battle against organized crime, as law enforcement agencies grappled with the persistent challenges posed by the Albanian mafia's criminal activities. In a dramatic turn of events in mid-2018, Belgian police made a major breakthrough in the fight against drug trafficking in the UK. They intercepted a shipment of 27 tons of cocaine, an unprecedented seizure. This enormous haul, with an estimated value of billions of euros, underscored the scale and threat posed by organized crime and served as a stark reminder of the ongoing fight against drug trafficking. As the law enforcement net tightens, investigations into the involvement of Albanian families in drug trafficking continue. Suspicion deepens as authorities probe the complex web of family connections that have fueled these criminal enterprises. Undeterred by the challenges they face, law enforcement agencies persist in their tireless efforts to combat the trafficking and distribution of drugs. Through coordinated operations and strategic partnerships, they strive to dismantle the supply chains that fuel this illicit trade. However, the end of this battle remains elusive, as the resilience and adaptability of the Albanian mafia present formidable obstacles to law enforcement efforts. Despite successes, the risks and challenges of intercepting drug shipments remain a sobering reality. The cunning tactics of the mafia, their sophisticated networks, and vast resources pose significant barriers to law enforcement. From port infiltration to the concealment of contraband, the complexity of the underworld demands constant vigilance and innovative approaches to counter the ever-growing threats. Yet, amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope remains a testament to the relentless determination to uphold the law and protect society from the scourge of drug trafficking. Beneath the headlines and statistics lie the faces of those whose lives have been devastated by the mafia's ruthless reign. Families torn apart, communities shattered, and futures stolen in the relentless pursuit of power and profit. On the streets, the damage is undeniable. Addicts, their bodies ravaged by the poisons supplied by criminal gangs, wander like ghosts, haunted by their inner demons. Children, innocent victims of a war they never asked for, grow up in the shadow of violence and fear, their childhood stolen by the streets. But the violence doesn't stop there. In the underworld, blood flows freely as rival factions fight for control of the lucrative drug trade. The death toll rises with victims of a war waged with guns and knives, where loyalty is bought with blood and betrayal is met with merciless death. However, amid the chaos, there are those who refuse to remain silent. Mothers march in the streets, demanding justice for their lost children, and communities rally together, refusing to surrender to the darkness threatening to engulf them. As the mafia's grip remains unbroken, the human toll continues to rise. We must stand together, united in our resolve to confront the darkness lurking within our society. We must shine a light on the shadows, exposing the true cost of organized crime, and refuse to turn a blind eye to the suffering it causes. Only by facing the harsh reality of the human cost can we hope to build a future free from the mafia's dominance. A future where every life is valued, every family is protected, and every community is free to thrive. The line between right and wrong becomes blurred as the mafia's influence spreads like a cancer, infiltrating every aspect of society. Authorities stand at a crossroads, between indifference and action, between complacency and courage. Will we turn a blind eye to the suffering the mafia causes, or will we stand together in solidarity, determined to confront the darkness threatening to consume us? The answer lies in our hands as we forge a path toward a future where justice prevails, communities flourish, and the human spirit triumphs over adversity. As the dust settles on the battlefield of organized crime, a sobering realization emerges, a tale of power, profit, and the unending struggle for control. From humble beginnings as smugglers to dominating the lucrative drug trade, the rise of the Albanian mafia has been nothing short of meteoric. Through strategic alliances, sophisticated networks, and ruthless determination, they have carved out a dominant position in the underworld of the UK and beyond, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. However, amidst the darkness, a beacon of hope has emerged in the form of law enforcement's steadfast commitment to combating organized crime. Through relentless pursuit and coordinated efforts, authorities strive to dismantle the criminal networks preying on society. Yet, the end of this battle remains uncertain as the resilience and adaptability of the mafia demand constant vigilance and innovation. Looking ahead, the future presents daunting challenges as the fight against drug trafficking in the UK enters a new chapter. Ultimately, the struggle against organized crime is a long-term battle, requiring unity, determination, and unwavering perseverance. As society stands at the crossroads between darkness and light, the choice lies in confronting the shadows of corruption and injustice, paving the way for a safer and more secure future for all. This is the story of a man accused of being one of the most notorious drug lords Belgium has ever seen. He not only surpasses Kevin De Bruyne and Eden Hazard in wealth, but also wields significant influence in the underworld. The mayor of Antwerp publicly stated that tens of thousands of kilograms of cocaine are believed to have been distributed across Europe by him. To date, although he hasn't been prosecuted for any crimes, a major question arises. If he truly is innocent, why would a prominent member of the Sinaloa cartel openly demand that he pay a debt along with a serious threat? This story is about Othman L.B., born in 1986 and raised in Borgerhout, Antwerp. Othman L.B. began his mysterious career as a teenager. He stealthily infiltrated the Antwerp port under the cover of night to retrieve shipments of cocaine from containers, serving his secret clients. Determined not to leave a trace, Othman quickly became a master in the trade, and money began flowing into his pockets like a torrent. While his allies often squandered their wealth on luxury cars, designer clothes, and extravagant lifestyles, Othman chose a different path. Typically, those who extract cocaine from the port are considered easily replaceable errand boys, sitting at the bottom of the distribution chain and earning low wages. They only receive a few thousand euros, a mere fraction of the profits they generate for their boss. However, Othman had a different strategy. Instead of taking cash, he decided to be paid in the very product he was transporting. This was a brilliant strategic decision. He received cocaine at the price importers had paid in South America, only 2,000 to 4,000 euros per kilogram. However, once the cocaine reached the port of Antwerp, its value skyrocketed to around 25,000 euros per kilogram. By selling the cocaine himself, Othman reaped enormous profits, catapulting him to new heights in the smuggling world by late 2015 and early 2016. Othman, one of the most notorious drug lords Belgium has ever known, built his empire through calculated and decisive moves. His career began as a teenager in Antwerp, where he covertly transported shipments of cocaine during the night. With his sharp intellect and strategic acumen, Othman turned cocaine sales into a massive revenue stream. He not only saved costs, but also increased profits by accepting payment in the very product he delivered. As he hired others to do the dirty work, his profit margins became immense, quickly propelling him to the elite ranks of smugglers. After catching the attention of Belgian police, Othman wisely relocated to Dubai, where he could manage operations remotely, invest in real estate, and live a luxurious life while the risks in the underworld escalated. However, Othman's peaceful life was threatened on November 15, 2016. At around 10:15 p.m., his brother Younes had just finished work at the gym and was on his way to his sister's house for dinner when he suddenly became the victim of a dramatic kidnapping. As Younes called his sister, the conversation was abruptly cut off by screams and chaos. His sister immediately alerted the police, and an urgent investigation was launched that very night. When the police reviewed surveillance footage, they discovered that Younes had been forced into a van by 4 assailants, and his car was later moved from the parking lot. The car was found 5 days later in Antwerp, and that was when Othman contacted the police to inform them that he had received a communication from the kidnappers. He revealed that they demanded a ransom of up to millions of euros, and named the mastermind behind the kidnapping as Hussein Ayet S., an adversary of Gwyneth Martha in a major dispute in Amsterdam. Othman provided such detailed information that he even knew the serial number of the BlackBerry Hussein was using. While Younes was held captive in Brussels and later moved to Paris, Othman in Dubai continued to supply information to the Antwerp police despite denying any involvement in this conflict. Rumors spread that the kidnapping might have been linked to a lost shipment. In an exclusive interview with the Belgian press, when asked about his involvement, Othman asserted, "I have no conflict with anyone. The kidnappers only want money. They choose those they think have a lot of it. I don't have enough money to pay millions of euros to ransom my brother, and even if I did, I wouldn't pay a single cent." Even when Antwerp police urged Othman to pay the ransom and questioned whether he would really abandon his brother, Othman firmly refused. Finally, after 37 days of captivity, Younes managed to escape in a dramatic fashion. He used a spoon to unlock his handcuffs and tied bedsheets together to climb out. His plan succeeded, and the information from Othman helped the police arrest the 4 kidnappers, including Antwerper Hassan Salmi, Mohamed Kanute, Abu Sako, and Rachid Belarbi, all of whom were gangsters with serious criminal records in Paris. Rumors swirled that Othman had paid the ransom in cash, gold, or cocaine, but he dismissed these stories, insisting that his brother escaped on his own with the help of the police and the information he provided. Are these claims reliable? What do you think? After the kidnappers were apprehended, another equally serious incident came to light. A few months before Younes' abduction, this gang had carried out another kidnapping targeting Abdelkader Bouker. Just as with Younes, they demanded a massive ransom of millions of euros. Ultimately, 1.6 million euros were paid, but the outcome was tragic. Abdelkader Bouker was never seen again. In June 2018, a massive data leak sent the media into a frenzy. At that time, Dubai's real estate market was booming, and there was a lot of money tied to the leaked database, which included 54,000 addresses and 129,000 owners from 181 countries. Although many of these individuals had not been accused of any wrongdoing, the database revealed information about organized crime figures and other suspicious individuals. Othman LB also appeared on this list as a prominent figure in the underworld. After moving to Dubai, Othman invested millions of dollars in real estate. He owned at least 11 properties worth a total of $8.5 million, including luxury villas in Frame, classic properties in Discovery Gardens, and a $1.4 million apartment at Skyviews Observatory, one of Dubai's most prestigious buildings. In response to the information from the leaked database, Othman denied all allegations. He claimed that he was not involved in drug trafficking, but was instead engaged in buying and selling luxury watches, investing in real estate, and trading stocks. However, after 5 months of silence, the accusations continued to mount. Since being linked to drug trafficking in 2015, prosecutors have been unable to prove his guilt due to a lack of concrete evidence. Othman always maintained a low profile and left no clear traces, making it more challenging than ever to gather evidence. By April 2022, raids were conducted in Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany, leading to the seizure of evidence that could be damaging to Othman. These raids were carried out after police investigated a series of confiscated drug shipments. In 2021, a total of 35,000 kilograms of drugs were linked to Othman. A shipment of nearly 11,000 kilograms was seized at the port of Antwerp on April 2nd, 2021, hidden in containers. The criminals used Sky ECC phones for communication, and while the police could read their messages, they were unable to log in due to the highly secure passwords. The investigation expanded as 3 other massive shipments were confiscated, including nearly 16,000 kilograms at the port of Hamburg on February 12, 2021, and nearly 8,000 kilograms at the port of Antwerp on February 20, 2021. Othman consistently and publicly denied any involvement with these shipments, but the situation grew increasingly tense. On January 9th, 2023, tensions escalated when 3 shots were fired into the garage door of a house belonging to Othman's family. Behind the garage door was a makeshift living room with a kitchen. At the time of the incident, several residents, including children, were in the kitchen. Tragically, one of the 3 bullets struck a young girl, who later died in the hospital. She was identified as Othman's niece. Upon discovering that the girl was his niece, the police concluded that the attack might be related to ongoing conflicts in Antwerp's underworld. However, Othman quickly denied any involvement in the attack. He declared, "I had nothing to do with what happened to my niece. I will continue to search for those responsible until they are brought to justice." As the situation grows increasingly dire and conflicts continue to unfold, the future of Othman and his family becomes more uncertain. When questioned about how he could make such a claim, especially given his background in a notorious criminal family, Othman retorted, "Our family is not notorious. Can you point to any attack in Antwerp in recent years that my family was involved in? I'll tell you, there is none. I'm not involved in any conflicts and have been living away from Belgium for 12 years. The police are trying to make me the face of everything. The truth will come out and I will ensure that." On March 10, 2023, a major shock was announced. Belgian prosecutors were seeking a 9-year prison sentence for Othman for large-scale drug importation and money laundering. They also proposed an 8-year sentence for Othman's brothers, Noordin and Younes. Othman and his brothers were regarded as major figures in the European underworld. Prosecutors believed they had a solid case thanks to the Sky ECC messages and the intercepted shipments that they claimed were coordinated by Othman. According to the messages, Othman often used the alias Big Brother. Some typical messages from Big Brother to his brother Noordin read, "Can I send that amount? 100 things you successfully did." Noordin responded with a smiling face emoji. "You have 1.3 million, 200 is 1.1 million, now 90 times 29 is 3.7 million. Can I send it tomorrow? Sorry, 650K? I forgot your investment. 3,150,000. Noordin replied, "Okay, I have 3 million all in cash." Othman continued, "Might need 1 million there so I don't have to knock on your door every time." Later, Othman asked, "Do you have space for me to stash another 10 million just for me?" The calculations in Othman's messages were believed to refer to a 100-kilogram drug shipment with a purchase price of 6,500 euros per kilogram and the 650K investment mentioned. 90 times 29 inches was thought to refer to 90 kilograms of drugs sold at 29,000 euros per kilogram wholesale. When the shipments arrived in Europe, other messages about large cash transactions and additional information would be used in court to put Othman behind bars. Othman responded to this news by stating, "They will never be able to convict me in this case because there is no evidence." However, the bad news didn't stop there. On July 19, 2023, the USA Department of the Treasury added Othman, along with his brothers and associate Ben Azza, to the OFAC sanctions list. Being on the sanctions list of the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, means that any assets, bank accounts, businesses and vehicles under your name linked to the USA could be frozen or seized. This is a serious and powerful blow. However, Othman didn't seem too worried, responding briefly with, "Do you think I own anything?" Given what is known about his operations, it wouldn't be surprising if he had already carried out a sophisticated plan to transfer his assets to other names to avoid seizure. Only time will tell if this is the case. Furthermore, the situation took a more serious turn on July 20th when a shocking video emerged. In the video, a member of the notorious Mexican cartel claimed to represent Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the kingpin of the Sinaloa cartel. The person in the video asserted that he had sent people to meet with Othman's associates to collect a debt that Othman apparently refused to pay. The video shot with the speaker's face clearly visible and the message directly addressed to Othman not only surprised everyone, but also raised concerns. The man challenged Othman to make the video public so that people could know the identity and adversary that Othman is facing. It seems that this debt is no small amount and could reach millions of euros. At present, we can only speculate on the true cause behind this conflict, whether it's an unpaid shipment, a forgotten loan, or some other dispute. In any case, it's clear that Othman is facing significant danger from extremely dangerous individuals. Nevertheless, Othman remains safe in Dubai, despite a new extradition treaty between Belgium and Dubai, but the city seems to have taken no immediate action to arrest him. Othman continues to live in luxury and has not been prosecuted for any serious crimes. For now, he is still presumed innocent until proven otherwise. So the story of Othman continues to become more intriguing. I will keep following the latest developments in this case. This is the story of a crime boss who has operated in the underground world for a long time. A man living a luxurious life, traveling the globe, attending the most extravagant sports events, and he even managed to get a photo with the Dutch king and queen who had no idea about his true identity. In the photo, he wears a beaming smile, but if you cross him, that smile will quickly disappear and you might find yourself fearing for your life. This is the story of Piet Wortel. Piet Wortel, a 54-year-old Dutch man of Surinamese descent, born in Alphen aan den Rijn, Netherlands, had successfully managed to stay under the radar for a long time. Very few people knew about his past, his childhood, or what had shaped him into the person he is today. In 2014, Piet was sentenced to 7 years in prison for large-scale drug trafficking in the Netherlands. The police had arrested him on April 3, 2012. That evening, Piet was sitting in one of the most expensive skyboxes at Camp Nou, watching the match between FC Barcelona and AC Milan. The arrest was part of Operation Tidor, an investigation into a shipment of 1,100 kilograms of drugs intercepted at the port of Rotterdam. After a thorough investigation, the police discovered additional shipments potentially linked to Piet from South America to Hong Kong, Cape Verde, and the Netherlands, all of which were successful and yielded enormous profits. A notable detail is that during the investigation, the police had secretly placed a microphone in his airplane seat, hoping to gather crucial information. Before his arrest, Piet lived a glamorous life, traveling the world with his associates, staying in the most luxurious hotels, spending lavishly on designer clothes, and purchasing VIP tickets for the biggest sports events. Notably, he managed to secure tickets for the 2010 World Cup final, where the Netherlands faced Spain, a match that most Dutch people remember with disappointment. After the game, Piet and his team persuaded staff to allow them into the stadium's catacombs, and who did they meet there? It was Crown Prince Willem-Alexander and Crown Princess Maxima Zorregieta, now the King and Queen of the Netherlands. Piet quickly requested a photo with the King and Queen, and he succeeded in getting it. The Dutch royal couple had no idea they had just posed with a criminal mastermind and his associates. Piet proudly flaunted this photo to his criminal friends, which infuriated the Dutch law enforcement agencies who had been tracking him for a long time. But by then, it was too late. The damage had been done. When the 7-year prison sentence was handed down in 2014, Piet had already served 2 years, and he was expected to be released in 2019. In 2016, Piet was granted conditional release with an ankle monitor. He exploited this opportunity to escape and flee to Suriname, where he has not returned to the Netherlands, and for years, no one has heard from him. In July 2019, Piet was reported to have coordinated a massive 400 kilograms drug shipment through his network from Suriname to the port of Rotterdam. This was not the first time the network had operated, and previous shipments had yielded enormous profits. Now, Piet decided to execute a major deal: 400 kilograms of drugs. He tasked a group of his operatives to handle the cargo upon its arrival in Rotterdam and distribute it according to plan. These individuals include Roy Harry, Romeo Donk, Kelvin Maynard, and Jensiel Feller, all of whom are Dutch nationals of Surinamese descent with connections to the southeast Amsterdam area. Pay attention to these names as their story is about to take some surprising turns. According to the plan, the shipment was to be transported from Suriname to Rotterdam, and all signs pointed to its success just like previous ones. However, the shipment suddenly disappeared, without a trace. Or perhaps that was the information relayed to Piet. The shipment was seized, and no gram of drugs was found according to the people responsible for its transportation. This might seem like a reasonable explanation, but suspicion grew when those connected to the shipment suddenly appeared flaunting wealth and living extravagantly. the uproar immediately erupted in southeast Amsterdam. In the underground world, a missing shipment is synonymous with immediate trouble. Rumors spread like wildfire, trust among gangs was shattered, and revenge seemed inevitable. Piet felt he had been cheated out of a 400-kilogram shipment, and what happened next truly caused a stir. He was reportedly declared that anyone benefiting from this scam, whether just €1 or millions, would pay dearly. And soon, Piet's fury began to unfold. On the night of August 3rd to the early morning of August 4th, 2019, Jensjel Feller, one of the individuals tasked with retrieving the cargo from the container, was ambushed and shot severely while on Dokkumlaan in Almere, where he lived with his girlfriend. When he was taken to the hospital, doctors found he had been shot 3 times. Despite his severe injuries, but Jensjel survived the attack. The mayor of Almere then ordered him not to live at his girlfriend's home. For his safety, Jensjel decided to flee to Curaçao right after the incident, hoping to find a safe hiding place. Unfortunately, things did not go as hoped. In Curaçao, Jensjel led a completely reclusive life. He always sat in the back seat of a white Hyundai with the windows covered, never appearing in public. Despite his efforts to remain hidden, those he tried to avoid still managed to find him. Around 10 a.m. on September 2nd, 2019, Jensjel was sitting in the back seat of a white Hyundai. A video captured the car parked in front of a restaurant named Libanese. When the driver had just left the vehicle, 2 armed men suddenly charged and fired directly through the back window. Jensjel had no chance to defend himself. After attempting to escape to a country nearly 8,000 kilometers away, his enemies found him and took him down. On September 17, 2019, an emergency call brought Surinamese police to the scene of a burning vehicle. When inspecting the car, investigators found several pieces of the license plate. After analyzing these fragments, they summoned the car's owner to the police station. The following day, Roy Harry's brother appeared at the station and shockingly informed the police that he had lent Roy his car 2 days earlier and had not been able to contact his brother since. According to him, contact was cut off right after the police discovered the burning car. At the police station, Roy's brother immediately reported Roy's disappearance. Just a few days after receiving the report from Roy's brother, Surinamese police received another missing person report. Romeo Donk's family came to the station to report that Romeo had disappeared without a trace since September 17th. They mentioned there had been no news from Romeo, which was very unusual for him. The police suspected that the 2 cases were closely linked because both Roy and Romeo had been in the Netherlands a week before they went missing and had returned to Suriname together. Roy's family stated they had never heard of Romeo and questioned whether there was any connection between the two. Back in the Netherlands, around 8:35 p.m. on September 18, 2019, Kelvin Maynard was sitting in his car, waiting for the traffic light to turn green. He had just had an important meeting with some men. However, as Kelvin was leaving, he was unaware that he was being followed by 2 men on a motorcycle. To his surprise, these 2 strangers stopped right next to his car window. Before Kelvin could react, he was shot multiple times. Despite his severe injuries, Kelvin tried to drive away at high speed to escape, but eventually crashed into a fire station. Firefighters did their best to save him, but it was too late. In just a few months, 4 men connected to the drug shipment had either been assassinated or gone missing. Could this really be just coincidence? Think about it. Although the Netherlands was witnessing significant upheaval and incidents, business continued. By late April 2020, a massive shipment of 4,100 kilograms had arrived at the port of Antwerp, with a street value of over 200 million euros. The cargo was concealed among fish crates and was transferred to a warehouse after docking. The Belgian Federal Police got wind of the shipment and organized a large-scale operation to apprehend those involved. After raiding the warehouse near the port, police arrested 9 men as they were distributing the 4,100 kilogram shipment, and they also launched operations to arrest additional suspects in Antwerp. Most of the arrested suspects were from the southeast Amsterdam area. Through investigation, the police suspected that Piet Vortel and Bola Jos were connected to this shipment. Following the turmoil in Amsterdam after the 400 kilograms shipment's disappearance, Dutch police anticipated a storm of incidents once again due to the current shipment being 10 times larger. However, unexpectedly, the situation remained relatively calm. By late February 2022, the Fugitive Active Search Team Netherlands received crucial information that Piet was on his way to Aruba. On March 3, 2022, Piet left Suriname and landed in Aruba. As soon as he touched down, he was arrested by Aruba police working closely with the Fugitive Active Search Team Netherlands. Shortly afterward, Piet was extradited to the Netherlands, and the manhunt continued. On October 11, 2022, a major shock hit the Dutch newspapers. Piet was arrested at a house in Almere, completely out of the blue and unexpected. After being extradited from Aruba, Piet served his sentence in the Netherlands and was released under the condition of wearing an ankle monitor. In the early hours of October 11th, a major raid took place. Police searched 7 houses, a hotel room, and an office across 4 different cities. Every nook and cranny was thoroughly examined for evidence. Piet was arrested on charges of drug trafficking and his possible involvement in the murders of Jensiel Feller and Kelvin Maynard. However, an even bigger shock came from a trial against footballer Quincy Promes, who was accused of being involved in drug trafficking. During the trial, Piet's name unexpectedly surfaced. In January 2023, prosecutors alleged that Quincy had paid a fine of up to 250,000 euros to Piet due to his involvement in the stolen shipment. According to the police criminal intelligence team, Quincy did this to settle a debt with Piet. However, Quincy vehemently denied this and was shocked by the accusations. Quincy asserted that it was completely absurd. His lawyer Robert Malowitz also stated, "My client does not even know Mr. Piet. They have never had any contact or calls with each other." Although Quincy's phone number was in Piet's contact list, but Piet denied knowing Quincy, insisting there had been no communication between them. For years, Piet was considered a key figure in the smuggling world, but after his arrest in October 2022, prosecutors have continually struggled to charge him with any offenses. They also failed to establish a direct link between Piet and the events related to the stolen shipment. Piet's lawyer has asserted his innocence, and Piet himself claimed that he had been held for months without just cause. By mid-March, the lawyer requested his immediate release and succeeded in getting Piet out of prison on March 29, 2023. This time, Piet was not facing old charges, but a new and harsh accusation: money laundering. From January 1, 2018 to October 10, 2022, Piet was suspected of laundering millions of euros from criminal activities. This move was clearly a decisive attempt to prevent Piet from having the opportunity to be free, while also allowing authorities more time to search for additional evidence and continue prosecuting him. In July 2023, rumors spread that Piet might be hiding millions of dollars worth of gold in his villa in Suriname based on some blurry photos. However, the reality proved that no gold bars were ever found. The police stated they found nothing because Piet had been warned about the raid and had managed to move all the gold bars out of the villa in time. Piet argued that the gold was sold to Suriname's vice president, Ronnie Brunswick, and that none of it belonged to him. If any, then it was insignificant. During the raid, the police also discovered some classified documents raising suspicions about a potential traitor within their ranks. Concerned about a traitor in their organization, the Suriname police felt this could be evidence of Piet's power and influence. As of July 2023, Romeo and Roy are still missing and have been unaccounted for to this day. With nearly 85% of Suriname being tropical rainforest, making someone disappear is not an impossible feat. Piet has had a tumultuous life and nearly escaped the clutches of the law. However, he is still in custody while Dutch prosecutors are doing everything in their power to keep him behind bars. Currently, the situation seems more favorable to Piet than to the prosecutors. If there are any significant developments, I will update you immediately. Sweden, once one of the wealthiest and most peaceful countries in Europe, has witnessed a rapid transformation recently. I emphasize the word once because this country is now experiencing an unprecedented wave of violence. In 2022, Sweden recorded 391 shootings, and the situation did not improve in 2023. In September alone of 2023, 11 people were killed in deadly shootings. The Swedish Prime Minister, in desperation, called for military intervention, as there seemed to be no other solution to restore peace to the country. The cause of this violent storm lies in the fierce battles between gangs fighting for drug trafficking territories. However, these are not just ordinary gangs. They recruit teenage boys, some as young as 13, to carry out assassinations and grenade attacks. Among the most feared criminals today is a man who has had a particularly strong influence on the situation in Sweden. He is one of the country's most wanted men, and this is the story of Rawa Majid, also known as the Kurdish Fox. Rawa Majid was born on July 12, 1986 in Iran to an Iraqi family. When the Iran-Iraq conflict intensified, his parents fled, bringing him to the city of Uppsala when he was just a few months old. Uppsala is a small city about 70 kilometers from Stockholm, which became his new home. Although his father gradually disappeared from the family's life, Rawa excelled in school, particularly in business studies during high school. After graduating, he opened stalls in Uppsala, selling food, phone cards, and gold. Not long after, he embarked on his criminal career. In 2010, Rawa was sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison for multiple drug-related offenses, including handling cocaine imported from the Netherlands. In February 2015, he was released early on parole and bought an ice cream shop in Uppsala, a smart business move. However, his freedom didn't last long. Just 3 months later, he violated his probation and was arrested again. In 2018, Rawa was released again but was placed under strict supervision and banned from leaving Sweden. Soon after completing his sentence, when his cousin was removed from the game, Rawa realized that he might be the next target. This led to Rawa being allowed to leave Sweden despite being under surveillance and still on probation. He was permitted to travel to Iraq, his parents' homeland, and eventually registered residency in Sulaymaniyah, a city in the Kurdistan region of Iraq where his mother was born. It must be said that after his release, Rawa not only continued but expanded his drug trafficking activities. By 2020, he had risen to become one of Sweden's top drug traffickers, a fact. The disappearance of the Fox led to speculation that Rawa had important connections in Iraq and that he may have been tipped off about the raid, allowing him to escape just in time. Shortly after this raid, Rawa moved to Turkey and lived quietly for a few months. However, in March 2022, his name resurfaced in the news, this time linked to a violent feud between his Foxtrot gang and the Bandidos gang. The cause of the dispute was 2 large drug shipments seized by Swedish police on February 11th and 14th. The conflict led to severe consequences. Just 2 weeks after the shipments were confiscated, the Bandidos Club was attacked with gunfire, but that was just the beginning. The retaliation between the 2 gangs grew more intense, and on March 4th, a tragic event occurred. An innocent barber was shot dead. The man was driving a white Mercedes near the Bandidos Club when Peter Hassan Hagi, a 17-year-old teenager, shot him. Although the police suspected the victim was innocent, but they believed the original target was a Bandidos member who also drove a similar white Mercedes. Notably, most of the people involved in the crimes linked to this gang violence come from migrant families. A 2022 report showed that 85% of suspects involved in shootings and deadly attacks were either born outside Sweden or had at least one parent who was born abroad. 2 weeks after the shooting, Rawa ordered his subordinates to prepare for new attacks against the Bandidos gang. On March 28th, a young man was seen running into a gym and rushing down the stairs. It was clear he was on an important mission. The young man ran downstairs to the gym area and carried out an attack, causing panic among those present who fled in terror. Soon after the attacker ran back up the stairs again, even trying to escape through the wrong door before someone directed him to the proper exit. However, while tensions were escalating in Turkey, an unexpected event occurred. In April 2022, Ali Eren, a gardener in Marmaris, Turkey, found a small bag left behind. Upon opening it, Ali discovered bundles of cash. Despite earning only a modest salary each month, Ali didn't take the money and decided to report it to the police. At the police station, the money was counted, amounting to more than $12,000 in various currencies. After reviewing security camera footage near the park, the police identified a man named Miran Othman. They invited Miran to the police station to reclaim the bag, and he agreed right away. However, the police felt something was off about this man. When they checked his ID, they discovered that Miran Othman was none other than Rawa Majid, an internationally wanted man with a red notice from Interpol. Turkish police immediately raided Rawa's villa and found unlicensed weapons, large amounts of cash, and many luxury items. The villa had been rented using a fake passport. During interrogation, Rawa expressed surprise. "I used a high-quality and sophisticated fake passport. I never expected to get caught at the police station." Is this the end of the story for one of Sweden's most wanted criminals? In reality, no. Rawa had bought Turkish citizenship through the Golden Passport program in 2020 for about $400,000. Turkey became a safe haven for criminals thanks to this program. Although Sweden and Interpol requested extradition, but Turkish authorities refused for two reasons: his Turkish citizenship and the fact that Sweden had previously refused to extradite individuals accused of terrorism to Turkey. Therefore, extraditing Rawa had turned into a political game. A few weeks after his arrest, Rawa was released by Turkish police. Ali Eren, the man who found the bag, received a reward for his honesty. However, if he had kept the bag, things might have turned out differently. In April 2022, while Rawa was detained in Turkey, Swedish police shared a detailed report on him and his Foxtrot gang, with the intention of assisting Turkish intelligence in prosecuting him. However, unexpectedly, this document was leaked back into the hands of Rawa and his associates. By the end of 2022, Swedish police arrested a suspect linked to the Bridge Network, another notorious Swedish gang. During the investigation, they discovered a silver iPhone hidden away. Upon examining its contents, they found an extremely confidential report they had sent to Turkey to support the prosecution of Rawa Majid. It was clear that the report had been leaked, and Swedish police immediately flagged this as a serious breach. A Swedish official suspected that a Turkish government official might have leaked the document, although there was no concrete evidence yet. Meanwhile, Rawa Majid and his Foxtrot gang became embroiled in a new conflict by the end of 2022, this time with Mikael Tenesos and his Dalen gang. Mikael Tenesos, also known as the Greek, was a 25-year-old young man. Despite his age, he had quickly risen to become one of the key figures in the Dalen gang, while living in exile to ensure his own safety. Mikael was once a promising hockey player, but gradually he left his sports career behind to pursue a life of gang activity, shocking his former teammates with the shift. Mikael had a lot of potential. He was hardworking and always handled things himself, one of the captains said. It was truly shocking to see him leave hockey to join a gang. Another teammate added, he was someone to look up to, but his involvement with bad crowds from a young age led him down this path. This shift caused Mikael to abandon hockey entirely and focus on gang operations. The conflict between Foxtrot and Dalen erupted over control of the drug supply in Sundsvall. While the Dalen gang had long controlled the drug supply there, Rawa Majid's Foxtrot gang sought to expand its influence, leading to a fierce turf war. The brutality of this conflict was truly shocking. Within just the first 26 days of 2023, there were 13 bomb attacks, averaging one every 2 days. One of the most notable incidents occurred on January 21, 2023, when a shocking video emerged. It showed a teenager, with a youthful voice, slowly loading a Kalashnikov and firing it at an apartment door. This apartment belonged to the ex-girlfriend of rapper Thrife, who was believed to be connected to the Greek. However, rapper Thrife wasn't present at the apartment at the time, leaving only his ex-girlfriend and her young child inside. Fortunately, no one was injured in the attack, which seemed intended as a threat and was filmed as a gang trophy to assert dominance. In the past, gang spoils often consisted of gold chains or personal items, but the times have changed. The younger generation no longer just steals, they record their actions, showcasing their cruelty to the world. Amidst this backdrop, on September 11, 2023, the conflict took a terrifying new turn. The body of a 13-year-old boy, who had been reported missing, was found in a forest in Haninge, Sweden. The boy was believed to have connections to multiple gangs, including Rawa's Foxtrot gang, becoming the youngest victim in the conflict. Although not rare, but this event marked a grim milestone in the brutal war. Less than 2 months earlier, the bodies of two 14-year-old boys, Laith Al-Azawi and Mohammed Suleiman, were found in Stockholm. Both were suspected of having resold weapons from the Foxtrot gang. When the gang was unable to retrieve the weapons, they decided to make an example out of the boys, turning them into victims of retaliation. Shortly after, on September 12th, just 1 day after the discovery of the 13-year-old boy's body, another murder occurred. A man was found murdered in the stairwell of a building where a relative of Rawa lived, possibly the intended target. This man was believed to be connected to the Foxtrot gang, serving as a money handler for the group. While the Foxtrot and Dalen gangs continued to fight for influence in Sundsvall, the conflict expanded to Umeå, a rapidly growing city in Sweden. In early September 2023, an attack occurred between members of the two gangs. Crime reporter Diamant Salihu described the situation. The brutality is escalating. The people of Umeå are witnessing a level of violence they've never seen before. If you're involved in this conflict, you could become a target at any time. Everyone wondered, where did these weapons come from? According to a report from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, the Foxtrot gang and other criminal groups in Sweden receive weapons from arms smugglers in the Balkans, including assault rifles, Serbian pistols, and leftover grenades from the Yugoslav era. These weapons are dismantled and transported through drug smuggling routes to Scandinavia, often crossing the Öresund Bridge between Denmark and Malmö, Sweden. About 1/3 of the illegal handguns in Stockholm are Serbian Zastava pistols, and the weapons often come with grenades as a gift. Grenades are priced around 100 kroner, equivalent to about $9 or less than €9. These weapons and grenades have fallen into the hands of young shooters within Rawa's gang, as well as their rivals. Even more concerning is that Rawa's Foxtrot gang is facing internal trouble. Recently, the gang's unity has weakened, leading to internal conflicts, with members turning against each other. Ismail Abdo, once Rawa's right-hand man, betrayed him after a failed drug deal in the summer. This betrayal resulted in gang members becoming targets of violence. Reporter Diamant Salihu emphasized, they were old friends, knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, which makes this conflict more personal and dangerous than ever. The split within the Foxtrot gang led to a shocking shooting in Istanbul on September 6th. Security camera footage showed two men arriving on a motorcycle. One of them jumped off and started shooting wildly at 5 people standing nearby. These individuals tried to shoot back, and although no one was seriously injured, the event caused a major stir. Shortly after, as an act of revenge, Ismail Abdo's 60-year-old mother was murdered just 1 day after the shooting. Sweden has witnessed many brutal acts, and this incident further highlighted Rawa's ruthlessness and that of his gang, as even the mother of a gang member was not spared. Just 4 days later, another attack took place, this time targeting Rawa's mother-in-law. A stranger repeatedly knocked on her apartment door, but she didn't open it. After a few minutes, the attacker fired shots into the apartment and quickly fled, but had she opened the door, she might not have survived. Only 2 days after this shooting, a man named Mogos Emanuel was killed. investigations revealed that he was not involved in the conflict and was an unfortunate victim caught at the wrong place and time. The actual target was a member of Rawa's family. The division within the Foxtrot gang is completely reshaping the criminal landscape as new groups form and alliances emerge. Police Chief Mats Baki observed that the Foxtrot gang might have disbanded, and Rawa Majid is no longer as powerful as before, with many of his allies having left, been arrested, or even killed. Swedish police are closely monitoring the situation, hoping to exploit the chaos to infiltrate the gangs and arrest key figures. On September 28, 2023, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson summoned the head of the military to discuss using armed forces to support the police in responding to an unprecedented wave of violence, with shootings and bombings occurring almost daily. The mobilization of the military to combat crime is unprecedented, highlighting the gravity of the situation. Sweden has never seen anything like this, Kristersson stated on national television. No other country in Europe is experiencing this. Sweden has faced gang violence for years, but by September, the situation had spiraled out of control. Within just 12 hours, 3 people were killed in gang-related violence, including an explosion in Uppsala that claimed the life of an innocent woman, marking the peak of the horrifying violence. Swedish media linked the surge in violence to the conflict between Rawa and Abdo, and Sweden seemed unprepared to put an end to it. Kristersson noted Swedish laws were not designed to deal with gang wars and child soldiers. Gun violence continued to escalate as those involved had little fear of consequences due to the low conviction rates. More than 2/3 of shootings had no suspects arrested, and only 1 in 5 gang-related murders was solved. At that time, Sweden faced an increasingly serious issue with back-to-back shootings, and Rawa Majid's continued freedom beyond the reach of authorities, further intensifying the situation. Young boys continued to be drawn into the criminal path, sacrificing their futures. There appeared to be no viable solution to completely address this violence, and the chaos seemed only set to grow. Homes and people burned to ashes, individuals shot down, a violent conflict with a notorious biker gang, and large quantities of drugs sold on the dark web. All of these are the handiwork of one man. He calls himself the Godfather. Despite being imprisoned in another country, he continues to wreak havoc back home. If he targets you, you are certainly in big trouble, yet there is one important and specific thing he has never been able to accomplish. This is the story of Simo D, also known as the Godfather of Twente. Simo's real name is Mohammed, born in 1980 in Morocco, but he eventually moved to the Netherlands after his parents left Morocco in hopes of a better future. As a child, Simo frequently moved from one boarding school to another. His relationship with his parents deteriorated, and his personality became increasingly difficult to control. Simo began associating with the wrong crowd, leading to frequent run-ins with the police. At the age of 25, Simo purchased a grow shop named Super Grow in Hengelo. This was a place where people could buy equipment to grow plants, from tomatoes to basil and even cannabis, which naturally associated the shop with cannabis cultivation. Owning this shop introduced Simo to individuals familiar with growing cannabis. From there, Simo started connecting with people who dealt in all sorts of drugs, from cannabis to cocaine and more. Eventually, Simo acquired another grow shop called Two in Action, located in Enschede, near the German border. The police suspected that Simo was running a gang from Two in Action, involved in setting up illegal cannabis farms and selling other illicit substances. The shop became the gang's main base. Simo ordered his subordinates to smuggle these substances across the border into Germany using cars, leading to an investigation by both Dutch and German police. In 2012, undercover police officers struck a deal with Simo's gang to purchase 10 kilograms of cocaine. However, the gang members were unaware of the sting operation, and when they arrived at the meeting point, they were arrested. At the time of the botched deal, Simo was already in custody for another crime. During a dispute at a cafe, Simo had pulled out a gun and shot a man 6 times. The victim was hit in the leg, but fortunately survived. Simo was sentenced to 4 years in prison for this incident, and during his incarceration, prosecutors also charged him with involvement in the gang operating out of Tuin action. Simo always denied being the leader of any gang or being involved in drug trafficking. A witness used by the prosecutors stated, "I received 10,000 euros from Simo to put my name on a cannabis farm, and he was always the true owner." Simo, on the other hand, said, "Sometimes I delivered materials from my grow shop to certain locations. Occasionally, there was a cannabis farm there. I also gave advice on how to set it up from time to time, but I never set up or owned anything." Despite his denials, Simo was sentenced to an additional 2 years in prison. After being released early, he immediately returned to his old ways of smuggling and selling drugs, but this time with a completely different approach. After the failed deal with undercover officers that led to the arrest of his 2 accomplices, Simo decided to sell drugs via the dark web to avoid face-to-face interactions, thereby reducing the risks. Selling on the dark web was suggested by his accomplice, Marcus, an intelligent individual often referred to as a nerd and nicknamed Glasses. The dark web is a hidden part of the internet that requires special software, configurations, or access permissions to reach. Users of the dark web can remain completely anonymous. On the dark web, numerous websites revolve around the buying and selling of drugs. Simo saw this as the perfect way to sell his products in the future and enlisted Marcus to set everything up. In no time, people from all over the world were placing orders and paying with Bitcoin. These orders would be received by Simo, who then distributed them to his accomplices at various storage facilities across the Netherlands. The accomplices would smuggle the drugs to a house in Germany, package the orders in envelopes, and send the parcels through various post offices and mailboxes. Simo recruited a man named Zakaria to help with this plan. Zakaria rented the house in Germany where the drugs would be smuggled to and from there. The orders would be packaged. Zakaria also hired people to package and send the orders. According to police records, Simo sold drugs worth millions of dollars worldwide. Using this new method, they had truly struck gold. However, this new approach only lasted for a short time because unfortunately, it led to trouble for Simo once again in 2015. By chance, witnesses in the German city of Gronau spotted a Mercedes parked in front of a mailbox. They then saw 2 men dropping off numerous packages, which wasn't unusual. However, these men were wearing gloves and appeared very cautious when handling the packages. Although everything seemed normal, something felt off, and the witnesses alerted a postal worker immediately after the men left. The postal worker decided to open a few of the packages, and they were all filled with drugs. The worker promptly contacted the police, and a total of 60 packages were seized. Not long after, Zakaria was stopped by the police in the very same Mercedes that the witnesses had seen. He claimed the car didn't belong to him, but to Simo. Simo was then arrested when the witnesses confirmed that they had seen him dropping off the packages into the mailbox. Simo was furious that Zakaria had confessed to the police and decided to exact revenge, but things quickly spiraled out of control. While being held in Gronau, Simo continued to lead his gang. He had multiple phones in his cell that he used to communicate through various apps under the names GF, Mr. Sosa, and Souza Souza. GF stood for Godfather. These phones allowed him to maintain the gang's operations and direct his subordinates, Marcus, Henri, and Moritz. What followed was absolute chaos back home, as Simo faced business conflicts as well as personal feuds. It all began on January 31st, 2017, when a man was driving home in his Renault Megane after hanging out with friends in Hengelo. Just as he sat down in his car, a man suddenly approached and fired multiple shots at close range. The victim was hit twice in the wrist and 4 times in the shoulder, but it seemed as though a miracle had occurred, allowing him to survive. He later stated on the Dutch TV show Opsporing Verzocht that he was incredibly lucky to be alive and insisted that he was not involved in any criminal activity and had no enemies. After investigating, the police concluded that he may have been the wrong target. The actual target came forward to the police after the incident. He lived in the same neighborhood, also drove a Renault Megane, and was connected to the criminal underworld. Henri, also known as the Big Wolf, was suspected to be the hitman on Simo's orders, although the motive behind the attack remains unclear. Just 2 days later, around 6:30 p.m. on February 2nd, 2017, a barber was cutting a customer's hair. Outside, a Seat Ibiza Cupra pulled up and parked by the roadside. Suddenly, a man walked into the barber shop and began pouring a flammable liquid on the barber before setting him on fire with a lighter. The barber was then engulfed in flames, burning alive. The customers in the barber shop frantically tried to extinguish the flames. One customer noticed a bucket of water that had just been used to clean the windows and quickly poured it over the barber, finally putting out the fire. When the ambulance arrived, the barber was immediately taken to the hospital, where doctors concluded that he had sustained second-degree burns covering 12.8% of his body. Surprisingly, this was an entirely innocent man. He had only bought the barber shop from the previous owner a month earlier, and it was the previous owner who was the actual target of the attack. To understand this incident better, we have to go back to the summer of 2016. While Simo was still imprisoned in Germany, his wife told him that she had an unpleasant encounter with the former owner of the barber shop, which she found highly distressing. Upon hearing this, Simo became incredibly angry and wanted to teach that person a lesson. From prison, he instructed some of his accomplices to gather information on this individual, learning that he owned a barber shop. Simo then sent instructions to Henri to severely beat the man, but Henri responded, "It's better to burn him alive. If he dies, so be it." Simo replied, unconcerned about whether the man survived. When Simo later discovered that the injured person was not his intended target, but someone else, he remained determined to seek revenge. Simo ordered his accomplices to track down his target, but the man had fled to Turkey. Simo then decided to focus on the target's relatives, in this case the man's younger brother. From April until May 23rd, Simo ordered a tracking device to be placed on the younger brother's car to monitor his every move. On May 24th, 2017, the time to act had arrived. As the younger brother was driving his Hyundai Getz in Gronau, Germany, a BMW began following him. He noticed that he was being tailed and started to speed up and slow down to test whether he was being followed, and the BMW did the same. He sped up and after a few sharp turns managed to lose the BMW. When he arrived home, he sat in his car to see if he was still being followed. Just as he was about to get out of the car, the BMW reappeared and a person stepped out from the passenger seat and fired 6 shots. The tracking device under the car had allowed the assailant to know the exact location of the target, and the younger brother couldn't escape. The shooter was Moritz, Henri's younger brother, also known as the Little Wolf. However, it seemed another miracle occurred because the target survived once again. At 3:15 a.m. on September 19, 2017, a car stopped in front of the Luxex Shisha Lounge in Enschede. The passenger got out of the car and fired 6 shots at the lounge's front door with an automatic weapon. The lounge was closed at the time and no one was inside. The shooter then returned to the car and fled the scene. Just a few minutes later, he fired 30 bullets into the front of a house, shattering the windows on both the upper and lower floors while the residents were still inside. Fortunately, no one was injured again. This house was located only 350 meters from the Shisha Lounge. Both addresses belonged to a member of the Satudara motorcycle club. But why? To understand the motive behind this attack, we have to look back a little further. Simo had entered into a fierce conflict with the Satudara motorcycle club. There are 2 theories about the cause of this conflict. The first theory is that members of Satudara visited Simo's grow shop and offered to protect him for a fee. Simo didn't want any protection and refused. He then aligned himself with the Tattoo Hitters, a group of hitmen who were enemies of Satudara. This led to a conflict that made Simo want to eliminate the members of Satudara. The second theory is much simpler. The conflict was purely about drug trafficking. Simo and Satudara had been vying for control of the area to sell drugs before Simo transitioned to selling on the dark web. When Satudara continued to sell in the area Simo claimed as his own, he resorted to violence to send a message. Remember Simo's former accomplice, Zakaria, who informed the authorities in Germany, leading to Simo's arrest? Simo hadn't forgotten about him. At around 2:45 a.m. on November 11th, 2017, two men threw 2 bricks through the window of a house in Almelo. They then poured gasoline and other flammable liquids through the broken window and set the house on fire. At the time, a woman was sleeping in the front bedroom on the first floor of the house. She woke up and noticed the fire in the living room, allowing her to escape just in time. The fire caused most of the house to burn down, and the woman was none other than Zachariah's mother. It's important to note that while all of this was happening, Simo was still imprisoned in Germany. In 2020, Simo finished serving his sentence in Germany, but he wasn't released. Instead, he was transferred to the Netherlands, where a massive case was being built against him for all the crimes he had committed. With all the charges against him, prosecutors had enough evidence to build a strong case and demand a very long prison sentence for Simo. He was ultimately sentenced to 26 years and 8 months in prison. Many people immediately questioned why the sentence wasn't longer. According to prosecutors, the reason was that all the attacks had failed. Even though Simo had orchestrated much violence, but every attack he ordered was intended to take the victim's life, but unfortunately for him, none succeeded. Had they been successful, he might have been sentenced to life in prison. Journalists found it ironic that he called himself the Godfather, but continually failed. One remarked, "He was only feared because of his unpredictability and his ability to find people crazy enough to do the dirty work he ordered. His title suggests he wasn't really a godfather, he just sat in his small prison cell, giving orders to do this or that." Simo's accomplices, or those who carried out his orders, were tried starting in 2019, receiving sentences ranging from 6 to 18 years. In a completely unexpected twist, during a court hearing in July 2023, Simo and his lawyer were informed that Simo was on a target list. They couldn't reveal who was targeting him or the specific plans, but for now, since he remains in custody, the likelihood of anything happening to him is reduced. The underworld is something many people want to avoid, yet at the same time, they can't help but be intrigued by it. The story below might also keep you captivated because it is both complex and utterly fascinating. This is the tale of a man who rose to become one of the most powerful players in the Netherlands, undetected by any law enforcement agency. This man opposed violence throughout his life until an unexpected event made him explode. What followed were events few knew about, which later became global news. This is the story of Roger P. Roger P., also known as Piet Costa, is a mysterious figure in the Dutch underworld. He was born and raised in Rotterdam in the 1970s. Despite being a major player in the underworld, information about him remains scarce. The first part of his nickname, Piet, is a slight alteration of his surname, while Costa reflects his habit of frequently traveling to Costa Rica. Regarding Roger's early life, the information shows that he was involved in 2 robberies, one bank robbery and another, both leaving only minor marks on his criminal record in the 2000s. He also dabbled in small-scale speed drug production, but nothing too alarming. So how did Roger become a legendary figure in the underworld, largely unknown to the public? Between 2006 and 2009, Roger was imprisoned, and this time in jail played a significant role in his later career. From 2009 onwards, Roger frequently traveled between Latin American countries, particularly Panama, Costa Rica, and Colombia. While visiting these countries wasn't illegal, but the big question is why he traveled so often, and more importantly, how a small-time criminal suddenly established extensive connections in Latin America after being released from prison. Who did he meet in prison that helped him make these connections? Many questions surround this, and the answers will be revealed in today's video. Roger first set foot in Panama on September 17, 2009. His frequent visits to Panama raised suspicions among the authorities, who informed Dutch officials. This was the point when the story began to get truly interesting. In the early 2000s, the routes for smuggling cocaine into Europe were dominated by the Italian mafia, with goods typically transported from Colombia through ports in Spain or Italy. However, after a major market shift in Colombia in 2008, the Italian smugglers lost their monopoly. This opened up a golden opportunity for Dutch smugglers who controlled the ports in Rotterdam and Antwerp. The volume of goods passing through these ports gradually increased, leading to a decrease in container inspections. Combined with excellent infrastructure and the quick wealth opportunities from smuggling, the door to riches quickly opened. It was here that Samir Scarface Boyakrachan entered the scene. Samir was one of the most notorious smugglers the Netherlands had ever known. He usually worked exclusively with Moroccans, but starting in 2010, a Dutch name joined his ranks: Roger. Do you remember the question we mentioned earlier? Who did Roger meet during his time in prison that suddenly connected him with Latin American drug cartels? It was none other than Mustafa F., a key member of Samir Scarface's group. With his skills and expertise, Roger focused on logistics within Samir's massive smuggling empire. He oversaw transportation and managed teams at major ports in Antwerp and Rotterdam. As the European cocaine market boomed, Samir and Roger made millions of dollars. By 2014, the Dutch underworld was thrown into chaos with the sudden downfall of several powerful kingpins. In August 2014, it was Samir himself who was removed from the game, leaving a power vacuum. Roger quickly stepped in, seizing a portion of Samir's power and influence. However, the price of power was high. Roger received word that he too was on a hit list, forcing him to make the decision to leave the Netherlands and move permanently to San Jose, Costa Rica in 2015. In Costa Rica, Roger began growing pineapples, a perfect choice since pineapples were often used as a cover for smuggling operations. In the following years, Roger and Mustafa F. smuggled thousands of kilograms of cocaine into Europe from Costa Rica, hidden within shipments of pineapples. Their business thrived, and everyone wanted to work with Roger because he always knew how to make them money. Roger was a good man, detesting violence, which is why some in the underworld called him the Swiss. He had no enemies and always stayed clear of conflicts, even though the Netherlands was embroiled in turmoil at the time. Roger remained silent, avoiding any disputes. Even when someone stole from him or wronged him, he didn't seek revenge. He simply made back the money quietly. Roger calculated that revenge would be far more costly than letting things go. Some people even called him Candy because of his sweet nature, but in the end, everything to him was just about money. The police typically targeted the most violent kingpins, so Roger's aversion to violence only made what he did next even more shocking. In May 2016, a major incident occurred. Roger was running a new shipping route from Costa Rica. Typically, when smugglers discover a new route, they send a few test shipments to check it out, but this time was different. Roger's supplier was holding a large volume of goods that needed to be moved immediately. Roger didn't want to miss this opportunity, so despite not having time to send a test shipment, he decided to purchase the entire load. The total shipment amounted to nearly 4,000 kilograms, valued at almost 100 million euros in the Netherlands. This was a massive shipment to be sent via a completely new and untested route. When the shipment arrived at the port of Antwerp, it was scheduled for inspection. Despite all the preparations, Mustafa panicked and contacted Roger and Naima Jillal, the cocaine queen associated with this shipment. However, it was too late. The shipment had been discovered and nearly 4,000 kilograms of cocaine were seized. This incident led to a serious rift between Mustafa and Roger, with suspicions beginning to form on Mustafa's side. Although Roger was severely affected, he remained calm and accepted the loss as part of the business. Their final decision was to cease working together. Mustafa, who had been interviewed alongside Ridwan Taghi, was later arrested in 2017 in Marrakesh when he narrowly escaped an attack by Taghi's men. Roger clearly didn't want to get dragged into that kind of trouble and decided it was time to return to a low profile, running his own crew. The year 2020 would mark a significant turning point for Roger. According to leaked messages from EncroChat, trouble began to escalate when an associate in the group named Ali Reza D was accused of stealing 130 million euros from Roger, the money Roger had stored in Dubai. Just imagine someone taking 130 million euros from you. This enormous sum of money completely rattled Roger, something he could easily brush off before, but not this time. In January 2020, Roger, along with Ibrahim A trustworthy young member of his group, traveled to Dubai to confront Ali Reza and demand the money back. Ibrahim, who worked for Roger as a driver and assistant, was steadily rising through the ranks of the organization. However, their mission was unsuccessful, and Ibrahim returned empty-handed. Roger then brought Ali Reza back to the Netherlands. Once there, Ali Reza was invited to a serious conversation. The result was that Ali Reza returned nearly 50 million euros to Roger and promised to repay the rest once he was released. Feeling insulted back home, Ali Reza became determined to seek revenge. By May 2020, Ibrahim was on his way to visit his mother in Rotterdam, unaware that two masked men were hiding in the bushes. As Ibrahim passed by, they suddenly jumped out and opened fire continuously for 15 seconds, according to neighbors who heard the gunshots. This was the tragic end of Ibrahim's life, Roger's trusted associate. This event would become the main driving force behind what was to come and fundamentally change Roger. Reading Roger's messages, it was clear that he wouldn't normally act this way, but now there were a few people he hoped to hurt. He uttered just 4 words in his first court appearance and remained silent for the rest of the trial. He was sentenced to 17 years and 9 months in prison for smuggling, a sentence that was the maximum at that time. Regarding the detention cells, Roger was sentenced to 12 years. He reacted very calmly and accepted the sentence as he had anticipated a long one. His lawyer immediately filed an appeal, although it's notable that Roger was very close to bringing in a shipment of 25,000 kilograms from Colombia, all in one go on his own ship. Unfortunately for Roger, he was caught before he could complete the transaction, making this perhaps one of the most fascinating stories I've ever covered. The way he ascended to the upper echelons of the underworld, how he managed to maintain a low profile for so long, and ultimately, what led him to abandon his vow of nonviolence. All of these elements create a truly compelling narrative. The 7th container was particularly special. It wasn't like the others because inside it held an old dentist's chair where people could be tied up for some very interesting discussions. Roger texted Robin with chilling coldness. "Buddy, sooner or later it'll be their turn. No mercy, trust me." After reading all the messages from EncroChat, the police were convinced it was only a matter of time before the first victims were brought into these temporary cells, and they needed to act immediately. On June 22, 2020, a warehouse raid was conducted, and what the police discovered sent shockwaves through the underworld. Images of these cells spread globally, and by Dutch standards, this was completely unprecedented. During further investigations, the police found a large stash of police uniforms and stop signs, items the group intended to use to capture targets and bring them into the cells. They also discovered tools like screwdrivers, garden shears, scissors, pliers, and even a bathtub, things you can imagine they would use in that context. Everyone present at the scene was stunned by what they saw. June 22nd. 2020 was not just the day the warehouse was raided, but also the day Roger's apartment in Rotterdam was stormed. Roger tried to escape but failed him not in some luxurious place like Costa Rica or Dubai, but in the very city where he was born and raised. In court, Roger had to sit in a wheelchair due to an injury he sustained while playing football in prison. He appeared with a hoodie pulled over his head and a mask on his face, which is the only reason there's just one blurry photo of him available. Roger didn't want to be photographed or have his portrait drawn. This is the full story of Roger Piet Costa. What do you think of this story? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below for everyone to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.